The time has come for the dead Japanese maple to leave the garden. Hey there, YouTube friends, and welcome back to Horticulture Geek. I'm Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today here in the garden. And as I just said, today is the day, the time has finally come for our dead Japanese maple to leave the garden. If you've been following me for a while here on the channel, you know that we have been struggling with this Japanese maple for quite a few years. And it's one of those trees, it was such a big, important piece of the landscape that I let it stay. I let it limp along year after year. I would prune out big branches that would die out systematically in the hopes that we could course correct the tree. I've added tree fertilizers. I've done all sorts of things trying to help this tree, and it is just done. So the tree it's got to go. And this is a common thing that happens in gardens. Trees, plants have a life expectancy. They reach that life expectancy, and sometimes things happen to our plants that aid in that downcline for the tree. And that is the case with this tree. The trunk was split and broken many years ago, and we tried to pull it back together and do some course corrections on it, like I said, but it has finally succumbed. It's all dead, so it's got to go. But I've got a beautiful magnolia tree that we're going to put in its place. It'll be a nice evergreen interest and anchor point there on the corner of the garden. So, but first, we have to get that tree out of the way. And we're going to do this, hopefully, with a truck. So I've got a chain. We're going to hook a chain around it, and we're going to try to gently encourage this dead tree out of the ground. So come along. Here we go. All right, so what I'm trying to do with the shovel is just get around some of the roots as they expose and get them to turn loose of some of the good dirt and earth that's in this area, and also start to pry up some of the other little roots. Because what I don't want to have happen is this tree to just rip out so violently that it takes a huge amount of soil with it, or I don't want to rip down my retaining wall here. So the name of the game here for me is slow and steady. So I'm just going to be nudging it with the vehicle, pulling it slowly, and periodically working it around with the shovel. I think it's about ready to fully pop out. So here we keep going. All right, so all I'm doing now is I'm using the jet feature on my hose to try to, again, to get as much dirt and soil off of that root ball as possible. At this point, I'm doing that to lighten the load. I want to keep my dirt, obviously, here in the hole, but I'm also needing to lighten the load. You saw me prune off all the excess branches and stuff. Those are all gone. So now I'm left with a stump and a root ball, which is still impressively heavy for a small tree. So as much soil as I can get off of that root ball, it's going to be a much easier job for me to pick that root ball up and get it out to be hauled off out of my yard. So that's what I'm working on now. So I am going to continue on with that. I'm not going to film the rest of it because honestly, you've seen me shooting the root ball with a jet of water at this point. That's all there is to it. But I'll be back in just a second for you when I'm ready to move on to my next step. Okay, so here we are. I've got a couple of magnolia trees planted on either side of my driveway here in some large pots. And as you can see, these are really top heavy now. They've grown way too much for them to be contained into these little pots. So this is what I'm going to plant where the dead Japanese maple came out. I'm gonna put one in that hole and one in a different hole. So I've done this video before, but we are just gonna use a standard handsaw. While this pot does not have a massive lip or flare that has locked that root ball in, it does still have a small amount of curve. And so I'm just going to take off maybe an inch, inch and a half around a portion of this root ball so that then the whole root ball can slide out of this pot. So here we go. All right, so I've got the root ball cut out. I've got an assistant, and now it's just down to brute force. So we're just gonna tip the pot over and try our best to work this root ball out of the container. So, I've got my root ball here to my hole. I do have to dig out a little bit more. You want your root balls, focus back on me. So you want your root balls to stick out proud a little bit to prevent your root ball from drowning itself, but this is a little excessive. So I gotta dig down a little bit, and then we're gonna amend the planting hole. So we'll be right back. All right, so I've got my hole dug. I'm gonna be adding starter fertilizer. This is a root development fertilizer. It's really gonna help these roots to get established into the hole. And I've also got some compost we're gonna be putting in to give this tree a good shot at success. All right, guys, it has been a couple of days, but as you can see, our project is complete. So in the video, you saw me get the old dead Japanese maple out, dig a hole and prepare the ground and get a magnolia tree planted in the spot. So this video, I hope, is interesting to you. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the process. I'm extremely thankful that my wall did not collapse. It did shimmy and shake a little bit. A few of the blocks wiggled away, but everything is still standing and it's fine. So I'm excited about that. But I hope this video has inspired you. If you have that plant in your yard that's dead or dying, that is just seems like a huge mountain to climb and you don't know where to start, let this be your inspiration to get out there and tackle that project. Get that thing out of your garden and get something planted that's going to bring you happiness and joy and beautifully fill your space. These projects can be challenging, especially if you're working by yourself, but they are definitely achievable. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give me that thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave those down below. But until next time, guys, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.